In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, James and I, we're going to talk about the first wave of green room invites. Were there any surprises? Were there any shockers that made the first wave? And who do we expect to be in the second wave? Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, James Barlowe, and we're here to talk about the NBA draft. We are just 15, 16 days. I've lost track, but we are getting closer and closer to the 2025 NBA draft. James and I will be in New York City. This is James's first NBA draft. It is my second, so looking forward to it. But before we get into this episode, I want to let you know that it is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And if you are not subscribed to the Locked On NBA Big Boy YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, like, share, comment, and click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop an episode. Because like I mentioned, the draft is right around the corner, and this is the time that we've been waiting for. We've been talking about these guys since August. So this is our time. So be sure to hit that button and subscribe so you can be notified every time we drop an episode. All right, let's get right into it. Feels like it's been a minute since we did a pod. I feel like I've done I don't know, 5 podcasts a day. I did a couple with Yahoo. I did FS1. I got some live appearances. Man, I've been all over the place. That's why if you've been listening, you've seen me post Locked On Magic, post from Locked On Bucks. I got one coming up on Locked On Hawks. Like, I've been doing a lot of talking.
Yeah, I've had cold road games too myself, man. So
yeah, James out here getting pod appearances, man. I see you, man.
I'm hungry, man. I'm on everybody's mixtapes right now, man.
I'm just thankful for the opportunity, man. I remember when we first started just talking about the draft a long time ago as kids, and now people are just asking us to come on their show to talk about draft on some bigger platforms. So very, very, very thankful and grateful and appreciative of that, because I just don't take it lightly. So anyway, all right, let's talk about the big news of the day, because news is kind of thin right now around the draft. I mean, I think it's going to be a crazy, crazy draft day with all the trades that I expect to happen. But right now it's pretty quiet. But the big news today was there were green room invites. 11 guys were selected to the green room. James has some guys that he was actually surprised that were in the first wave. So I'll start it right here. Here are the 11 guys that 13. Were invited. 13?
13.
Is it 13?
That's what it says. That's what he said. 13.
All right, 13 guys. My bad. The 13 guys that were invited. So if you're not familiar with the green room is like the room where you're with your family. You got on your fancy suits. Some of these suits are pretty off the wall. Like
who? All right. I want to say it's going to be at least
the worst suit all time.
Yeah. Well, no. There's going to be somebody with some. There's going to be a whole lot of ankles. A whole lot of crazy jewelry.
Somebody might wear shorts like Trae Young did.
Somebody's gonna wear shorts.
As long as nobody pulls out what Samaki Walker wore.
I got one for you, Ralph. What would you wear if you were getting drafted?
I'm gonna go classic style. I'm gonna go pinstripes. The look that I would wear if I were invited to the green room would be like the type of suit I would wear if I were going for a job interview. But then again, I don't know, man. I might, I like fashion. I keep up with it. I might go with the velvet tux with the silk lapels, and I might go with the big bow tie. If I just want to just be flashy, I might wear like the tux with the big bow tie, but I might wear like the dress shirt with the ruffles on it, like like in the 70s. But I'm definitely wearing, it's New York, so it might be a little chilly. I'm definitely wearing tux with the silk lapels.
I think I'm going Hakeem Olajuwon with the tuxedo and the bow tie, but I'm gonna mix it up. I'm getting the big Tupac gong chain that he had on at the Source Awards, and I'm having that over the tuxedo with my big, medallion, something like classic / gaudy.
Yeah, and there's going to be a think piece on why athletes go broke, and it's because you spent your advance on a on a big chain. All right, I don't think they.
I am rich, man. What you mean?
I mean, you ain't rich yet, but I guess you.
Man, listen, if I'm in the green room, I'm rich.
This is guaranteed. All right. I don't think people tuned in to hear us talk about fashion. All right, let's talk about these names that were invited to the green room. No surprises here. Duke's Cooper Flagg, Rutgers, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe from Baylor, Trey Johnson from Texas, Common Mollywouch and Con Kneppel from Duke, Jeremiah Fears. I remember there's this guy on this show that told people Jeremiah Fears was a top 5 pick back in December, and it sounded pretty crazy. But Jeremiah Fears was invited to the green room. Kasparas Yakachonis, Egor Demin, Carter Bryant, Derek Queen, and Asa Newell. Those were the first batch of invites sent out on Tuesday. All right, let's just get right into it. Out of those names, this was the first batch, which if you're just guessing, then you're probably saying like, were these the guys that the NBA is predicting to be lottery picks? So who was the biggest surprise out of that group to you?
I would have to say Asa Newell. If you told me Asa Newell was if he got a green room invite the second day, I'd be like, all right, that makes sense. But the first day is kind of surprising to me. And maybe that's because Noah Singay is still playing right now and he hasn't officially or formally been invited yet. We assume that he will get one. But Asa Newell getting one on day one is a surprise to me. So
I just go a little bit deeper. Why is Asa a surprise? Is it just because from like your personal big board or your rankings, you don't have him as a lottery pick? Because I know I don't.
No, I don't have him as a lottery pick. It's not a knock on him. And again, this isn't about, hating on a young man's opportunity or anything like that. Crazy. But I just feel like he's somebody that I would probably take in the early 20s. And again, early 20s is still can be a green room invite. I just don't have him in my lottery. I think he is, in a sense, too much of a tweener. I do like the vertical pop, do like the athleticism, but like the rebounding of a 4 with the skill set of a 5 is why I'm a little lower on him. But at the same time, like he's going to be somebody I think is going to have to develop his perimeter game so he can play the 4 or play the 5, since I don't think he's going to offer much like rim protection, and he's going to be a run and dunk guy, I assume.
Yeah. Asa Newell from Georgia. Yep. I have him going number 19 on my mock. Check it out. Shameless plug here, NBABigBoard.com. I just released a mock yesterday or 2 days ago by the time you listen to this. I have my number 19. I just wasn't blown away by the measurements, and I'm not a measurement guy, but he measured out at 6'9", didn't have like a freakishly long wingspan. I get the appeal. Bouncy pogo stick athlete, should have a defined role as like a rim runner, dunker spot finisher. There are, some flashes of a face-up game, but I'm just torn because I think he's a 4 or 5. I don't think he's big enough to play the 5 right now, but at the same time, I don't know if he's skilled enough to play the 4, because when I look at 4s in the NBA, 4s in today's NBA are really 3s. And so to me, think about it. Most 4s in today's NBA have some type of wing skill set.
Yeah. And okay, so just even the finals right now, if Oklahoma City wouldn't have messed up their lineup, Chet is a 4.
Yeah, Chet can get the rebound, push it up court.
But since they messed up the lineup, Jalen Williams is the 4. And guess who he's guarding? Pascal Siakam, who handles the ball like a wing.
So with that being said, I've asked this question before, and it's funny just hearing like people's answers. And I say, what's the difference between Asa Newell and Marvin Bagley? And Marvin Bagley was very good as a freshman.
You cooked on that question. That's a good one.
Marvin Bagley at Duke as a freshman was like 21 and 10. And people are like, oh, it's the injuries and so on. I'm like, I don't know if it was the injuries. I just think like he's somewhat of a tweener because he's not necessarily a 5, doesn't want to play the 5, but not necessarily a 4. So when you're kind of stuck in the middle between that, like, I just have some concerns there. But yeah, Asa Newell was a first wave green room invite, and that caught me by surprise. Up next, we're going to talk about who else caught us by surprise, and maybe like who caught us by surprise because they were not in the first wave of invites. There is nothing like stepping into your own outdoor space and feeling like you've escaped into a personal oasis. If you are wanting to update your patio this season, Wayfair has made it so easy to turn it into a space that feels like yours, comfortable, stylish, and ready for summer. And Wayfair has everything you need to level up your outdoor space, whether you're looking for conversation sets, outdoor bars, fire pits, hot tubs, gazebos, and yes, even the perfect string lights to set up the vibe. So whether you are hosting friends or just unwinding with a book, Wayfair can make it genuinely feel like your backyard is your own private retreat. So do not wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis. Not tomorrow, but today with Wayfair, and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop a huge outdoor selection. That is WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style for every home. All right, second segment, we talked about the 13 green room invites. James gave Asa Newell from Georgia as his shocker that he was in the first wave. I have one for you, and maybe I'm not like all the way off base. I know a lot of people like Collin Murray-Boyles. I'm a little bit lower on Collin Murray-Boyles than the consensus, but a lot of people that I've talked to, especially people who are analytics driven, heavily analytics driven, think that Collin Murray-Boyles is a lottery pick. I personally don't see it, but I would not have been surprised if he were in that first wave. I don't have him as a lottery pick, but I'm actually somewhat surprised that he wasn't in that first wave, considering that there's so many people that like him. I mean, he is pretty divisive and polarizing, but it looks like eye test scouting won out over computer scouting when it comes to Collin Murray-Boyles' green room invite. And then Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant is trending in the right direction. He got a green room invite. Carter Bryant is a guy that I was lower on, then I became high on, and then after like researching and digging, I'm like, I don't know, man. Carter Bryant might trick somebody. So with that being said, I'm actually surprised that he was in that first wave. Because
Carter Bryant?
Huh?
You were surprised Carter Bryant was in that first wave?
First wave. If you're just going by the numbers, and then like you said, if Noah Asenge wasn't on that list because he's still playing, and they invited 13, which is a weird number considering that there are 14 lottery picks. If they only invited 13 and Asenge is a projected lottery pick, that means according to whoever voted, they think that Carter Bryant is a lottery pick. And my question is Carter Bryant going to go ahead of Cedric Coward in the 2025 NBA draft? I get reasons for both, but what are your thoughts on Carter Bryant? And are you shocked that he was in the first wave?
I'm not shocked that he was in the first wave, but I have him at like 15 or 16 personally. Just because, like, you know, everything that he does, he projects to do well is in like small sample sizes. And then when you look at the high school shooting, it wasn't very good, you know? So like, is he really a shooter, or is he somebody that shot the ball well for the 1 year in that small sample size?
I want to go on a tangent here real fast.
Go ahead.
I probably get heavily criticized for this because you know how it is. If it's a new prospect, he can only be compared to Hall of Famers in a sense. Like when I look at like some of these comparisons people have, it's like, all right, this guy is you know a projected mid first round pick, but he's been compared to like an 8-time All-Star in a sense. So with Carter Bryant scares me for a couple of reasons. I get the appeal, the positional size. You look at the numbers, he shot 37% from three, low volume of attempts. I am scared about guys that are scared to shoot. Carter Bryant had one game all season where he took more than 9 shots. And then when I looked at his EYBL stats, he averaged like 9 points a game. So I'm like, dang, are you going to go into the lottery? Like, and I get it. His role isn't to be featured, but these analytics and these numbers tests aren't going to show you when a guy passes up an open shot. When a guy plays 25 minutes and he only takes 4 shots. And so I just have some concerns about a guy with his physical tools that I haven't seen on the EYBL circuit and in college basketball, like impose his will. Like he has some good games, but for him having a good game means he was like 4 of 6. And maybe I'm looking at it like from the Deion Waiters mentality, man. If you 4 of 6, you need to be 8.
Hey, but you know what though? Somebody's gonna be like, he played with Caleb Love, and Caleb Love is not gun shy at all. So maybe there wasn't enough shots for him.
That's maybe fair, but what about EYBL? Like,
hey, you're not gonna get an argument from me about that. Like watching his EYBL tape, it was as talented as he physically is. It was a lot of like pull-up jumpers, you know, and it wasn't I'm 6'8", 220, and you can't stop me from getting to the basket. Yeah. And even on that high school highlight tape, I guess it's not like me nitpicking, but even on that high school highlight tape that's floating around when he had the straight back braids, like it was pull-up jumpers when he should have been getting to the basket. So maybe he turns it around again. I think that guys like him benefit from the OG Anunoby, like it worked out for him.
Yeah.
Right. But also at the same time, you look at OG Anunoby and he, you know, cashed out. He played for the Knicks and he played well. And then at the same time, like I mentioned, you ignore how it didn't work out or isn't working out for where he was drafted for Patrick Williams, a guy who did a little bit of everything, had the physical measurements, had the tools, and he's still trying to figure it out. So, I mean, I get it, but my surprise of not a first day invite, even though I know he is 6 feet tall, I thought Jase Richardson was going to get a green room invite on the first day because
I did. I'm not surprised about that. I
well,
think
here's the thing, though.
Hurt him.
His only knock, and it's a big knock, is that he's short.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But from like analytics standpoint, from the film standpoint, from the pedigree, all those things, shooting the ball, scoring the ball, craftiness, like I thought he might have got a green room invite. And again, I still have him like top 20, but I thought he would get one before, you know,
Carter Bryant. Yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing. Like when you're small, you always got to prove you can play. When you have great positional size, you got to actually prove like you can't play. Like a small guard is not going to average 6.5 points per game and get invited.
He's not going to be in the list. Yeah. If Jase Richardson had Carter Bryant,
there's only one guy that I know can be a small guard and get drafted without numbers, but he went number 55 last year. But anyway, go ahead.
Exactly. If Jase Richardson had those same stats, man, he'd be in the portal right now, bro.
Yeah, definitely. All right, up next, James has one more name that he mentioned to me off air. Maybe he's changed his mind, that he was actually surprised that was in the first wave of invites. And then we're going to talk about the next wave, like some of the players that I think or we think are guarantees to be in the second wave. And then we're not going to mention any names because we don't want to be aggregated. But I'm going to ask James, does he think that there's any players, even though we don't have the full list, that could be what we call Rashard Lewis? There is nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, and the fans losing their minds. It is the kind of atmosphere you must experience live, and this year's matchups are already delivering. I mean, the first game of the NBA Finals, despite the fact that people claim they weren't watching, well, I guess they didn't claim they weren't watching it. The numbers show that a lot of people weren't watching it. They missed out on, to me, an all-time great NBA Finals game. And if you want in the games, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats. And prices on the app, they actually drop closer to tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. I love Game Time. Matter of fact, the first time I used the Game Time app was about 2 years ago at this time. I was at the NBA draft. I took my family and my son, who wasn't even 1 year old. We went to a Yankees game. Bought tickets on Game Time. It was my first time using it. I got a discount. I saw exactly where I was sitting. So that made it very, very simple. It was very, very simple to get a seat. I may do it again while I'm in New York. And also, I bought tickets on Game Time to the Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence fight. And today, Terrence Crawford and Canelo. I guess it's like official. They made the poster for the fight, and I'm going to get my tickets to that fight on Game Time. And with Game Time, you can find seats for as low as $100 thanks to their exclusive discounts. And with the Game Time guarantee, your tickets are 100% authentic and they will arrive on time, and you will always get the best price. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off, and download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Right. We talked about Asa Newell. We talked about Carter Bryant. We talked about Collin Murray-Boyles. Was there anyone else, James, who you are actually surprised that they got a first wave green room invite for the 2025 NBA draft?
I am surprised, but I'm not surprised, I guess you could say. It would be Egor.
And why is that? I mean, I'm not surprised. I thought Egor was a first wave.
Man, hold on. Time out, Ralph. Let me call you out real quick, man. You was loud on here. Talking about Egor got to go back to school.
Yeah, then he had some good games at the end of. He showed the aggressiveness in the NBA. I'm sorry, in the NCAA tournament. He looked better in the Big 12 tournament, and then he had a combine where he measured well and he put on a ball handling display against nobody, and he shot threes and made like 16 in a row. I'm like, yeah, he's gonna go in. He's gonna go in the lottery.
I told you before that, though, he was a top 20 pick regardless.
Yeah, I had my concerns because he had a stretch of games where he was not aggressive, where he didn't want to bring the ball up against pressure. And I thought, like, all right, if he plays bad in the conference tournament and does nothing in the NCAA tournament, then he's got to come back. And then somehow against VCU, my man came out looking like pre-Thanksgiving Egor. So I'm like, yeah, he's not coming back to school. So I'm not surprised.
Well, I said that to say I'm surprised in the sense that the 3-point shooting, I wasn't wowed by the combine. Again, 16 in a row is fantastic, but like when in what NBA setting are you getting 16 jump shots in a row with nobody guarding you?
I'm not impressed by 16 threes in a row at the combine. I mean, I guess because I've been in gyms with NBA players, and those combine shooting drills are like room, rhythm. Of course, they're not contested, but there's a difference between, like a combine shot, because I remember watching Zach Edey just nail jumpers because you're shooting them. It's kind of weird to explain. You're shooting them to make them. Not saying you're not shooting them to make them in a game, but you have time. Like you can spin, find the seams,
right?
Shoot it.
Yo, VJ Edge. It's not a diss to VJ Edge. He was shooting his shots. His 5-spot shooting, man, it looked like it was in slow motion.
Yeah, like you're not.
It was like left, right foot shot. It was like that slow. I mean, 16 in a row is great, and it's a good indicator that the young man has decent touch. But like Egor shot sub 70% from the 3-point line, and he shot like 32% from three. And there were ongoing concerns about his assertiveness throughout the season.
Yep.
And again, I think he's Joe Ingles. I like Joe Ingles is still getting the check, right? At like 37, 38 years old.
Yeah, but I like Joe. Joe, if you ever get a chance to talk to him, he's one of the funniest human beings you ever meet. Joe Ingles is getting these late checks because he's such a great locker room guy. And if Joe Ingles doesn't play for a month, he's going to have energy on the bench. If Joe Ingles doesn't play for 2 months, he's still going to be early in the gym. He's going to be a great guy to have around.
On the cool though, that's a great thing to have on your resume, because
and it takes you to still like be a great competitor, but know when to like, all right, this is my role. I think some guys really struggle with that. Some guys are like, hey man, if I'm not playing, I'm not happy. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
I thought Egor getting one might have been a stretch. If he would be, him and Asa Newell were like all right, we can't give Noah Singay his invite yet. Let's give it to these guys. Now, again, do I think that Egor and Asa Newell, I think they were going to get green room invites. Yeah, they too, sure. But I got Egor in the top 20. I have my concerns. Love the passing, but like I said, the shooting, the assertiveness. I know it's cool to make the complexion comparison to Josh Giddey, but like Josh Giddey's aggressive. The only time Josh Giddey wasn't aggressive is when he had that off the court stuff going on.
Yeah, last year. And I think sometimes with Josh and even like early Ben Simmons, like, hey man, I can't shoot, so I gotta be aggressive,
right?
Because in order for me to unlock my passing, I have to push the tempo. I gotta play fast. I gotta do something. So I agree with that 100%. All right, let's talk about the next wave. So if it were me, just going off of my personal rankings, the next wave of invites would be Maxime Reynaud from Stanford, Rasheed Fleming from St. Joe's, Cedric Coward from Washington State. I talked about Murray-Boyles, Carter Bryant. I have him at like number 18. I got Newell at 19, Neat Clifford. And someone asked me about Neat Clifford, and I did a Q&A on Twitter, and I made the comment, if I'm in Neat Clifford's family, I'm getting fitted for my green room invite, and I think that's coming. That's about it for sure. I mean, they say that there's going to be about 24, 25 guys. So in your opinion, like, is there anybody that I missed that you think is a lock to be in that next wave?
Thomas Sorber.
Yep.
I think is going to get one. You mentioned Rasheed Fleming. I would have gave Rasheed Fleming maybe a first day look over Asa Newell. I think Rasheed Fleming is a lottery talent.
I think he's a lottery pick too.
I think he screams lottery talent. I think Danny Wolf probably gets one. My man Hanson Yang, he probably isn't going to get one, but he's gonna get one from me. That makes sense. But those are the main guys. But Ralph, I'm flipping on you. You're gonna spin that Rashard Lewis question on me, but I think the Rashard Lewis, and you can look at this two ways. Rashard Lewis sat in the green room and he ended up cashing out, hitting the lick. He almost revolutionized the forward position because he was a stretch forward that really messed up a lot of things in the NBA during that time. I think the guy that sits in the green room, if he gets a green room invite, a little longer than what of course, longer than what you would hope, Liam McNeely.
See, I wasn't even going to put you on the spot to mention names.
I'm not afraid about being.
I was thinking like, all right, we saw it with Bobo. We saw it with Ryan Rupert a couple years ago that these guys went in the second round, deep in the second round, and were there. And I remember, like, shout out to Buna Njai. Buna Njai is the agent for Victor Wembanyama and Bilal Coulibaly, and he had Ryan Rupert in that draft. Buna missed out on like Victor's and Bilal's post draft pick. He missed out on all of that stuff, the pictures, the party, because he went back to the green room with Rupert, who wasn't drafted until like 43. And I thought, like, dang, that's a tough situation to be in as an agent because your client goes number one. Like, how often do you get a number one pick? And you don't get a chance to like fully celebrate with him right after the draft because you're going back to the green room. So your guy who's just not sitting there by himself. I mean, he had his family with him, but you're being there for your client. I don't know too many guys who would have did that. But then again, I think it's a bad look if like you're in the green room and your agent is back there. Like, I mean, you're on your phone seeing him.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, with that being said, I don't want to mention any names because I don't know, but I'm just asking, like, they're supposed to bring 25 guys. And I think if they're going to bring 24, 25 guys, that leaves like a kind of like a small room for error. That means like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's a chance if a couple things happen, you could end up being that guy. And so I was asking you, did you think that there's going to be someone, and of course the list isn't out, but do you think there's going to be someone, I guess you answered the question, that is probably going to get a green room invite who could slide down to the second round? And you gave your answer, and Liam McNeely. Quickly, why do you think Liam could be that guy?
he has the reputation of being a shooter, and he shot the ball pretty poorly at Connecticut.
Yeah, like 31% from three.
And I know the argument was, well, he's in a role that he wasn't supposed to be in. Yeah, Coach Hurley drew up, huh?
He picked that role.
Yeah, he definitely picked that role.
Yeah.
And like Coach Hurley, like it wasn't. I mean, he struggled to put the ball on the ground and create for himself. That's due to just, I think, just a lack of athleticism, and teams were chasing him off the line. And, you know, ideally he's going to be somebody who's just going to stand in the corner. I think he was decent off the catch. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like they ran plays for him to get open looks. And if you like watch the film, they run some of the best stuff in the country, like next to like Louisville. So these are the same looks you're going to get in the NBA as a shooter. And he just couldn't knock him down. And on top of that, if the shooting progresses, I just don't know if I trust him on the defensive end. But like I mentioned, Rashard Lewis, he stayed in the green room, but ultimately he won because he had a long career, he got paid a lot of money. Maybe Liam, I'm wrong on Liam. This is not me hating on him. I'm just saying like somebody could be him. It could be Will Riley. Like it could be somebody who sits in the green room a little longer, and, you know, it's embarrassing for a day, but, you know,
it's super embarrassing. Because I'm like, dang, did you bring two suits? Like,
man, did Bobby Clement bring two suits?
I don't. He was a green room invite last year.
I know he was there on the.
Oh yeah, he was there on the second day.
Yeah, he was there on the second. I mean, you know, it's embarrassing, but you know what, man? Once you get drafted, you just got to do the work, you know. And sometimes it could be embarrassing on the second day, but if you go to the right spot, it doesn't really matter, you know. Like look at all those people that were drafted ahead of Nas Reed. Nas Reed about to get cashed out again.
Yeah, I think with Rashard Lewis, we'll end on this. He was a 32nd pick. So on one hand, it doesn't sound like it was that long of a wait, but at the time, they weren't giving out that many green room invites. And he had a way better career than the number one pick in my pick. And Rafe LaFrance, who went number 3. Hey, he won. He may have been crying in that green room, but he wasn't crying when he was going to the bank, and he got the money
wiped his face with hundreds.
Right. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day, and we are out of here.